everybody, Samantha here, back with another video. So I know you guys have been waiting for this video for quite a long time. I know I've been talking about it for a while. I actually just got some new equipment. I got a Canon Rebel T6 camera, so I'm really excited to put it to some good use. It's definitely a lot better than using a phone. And I kind of wanted to wait to do this video until I figured out how to use it, just so I could give you guys the best experience for this video. Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to be making a custom background for this custom PVC enclosure here, made by DW Geckos and Terraria, just like Spyro's enclosure, as well as my Tarantula's enclosure. So this enclosure here is 16 inches wide by 22 inches long by 18 inches tall. So it will make a very good enclosure for what's going in here, and you will be meeting her later in this video. So I'm going to be using this amazing piece of cork bark for this build. I absolutely love this piece, and I think it's going to be perfect for what I'm using it for. And I'm also going to be using Great Stuff Pond and Stone expanding foam for actually making the custom background. So you'll see how I use that later on. Alright, so I already got my foam pieces here already cut to size. They're basically kind of wedged in there, and that's what I'm actually going to be making the custom background on. And they're actually removable. So the good thing about that is that if you want to do something different with the tank later on, you can actually remove the custom background if you choose to. And it will also be quite a bit easier to actually create the background out of the enclosure. So you'll see the benefits of that later on. Alright, well, I'm really excited to get to this, so let's get to it. First things first is I have to attach all of my cork bark pieces, as well as anything else that I will be putting onto this background, onto this foam sheet. So I wanted to show you guys again this absolutely wonderful piece of cork bark that I will be using as a centerpiece for this build. I actually drilled out this hole that you're seeing in the middle of it, so the animal that's going into this enclosure has a couple of different entryways into her hides. So I will be attaching these pieces of cork bark as well as anything else onto this foam sheet with 100% black silicone. This is the silicone that I will be using. It is made specifically for aquariums as well as any other animal enclosures. You want to make sure when you're getting your silicone that it is 100% silicone, no other additives added to it. I also have a lot of different pieces of cork bark that I actually kind of broke off so that I could create a couple of different hides within this background. I want to make sure the animal that's going in here is going to feel nice and secure in her new home. This is actually a piece of cocoa husk liner. I'm going to be using this underneath the little half hides of cork bark that I created so that the animal that's going in this enclosure isn't sitting right on top of the foam. It's going to cover the foam within the hides. I'm going to be using the silicone to attach some of these small flower pots onto this background. I'm I'm going to be doing this so that when I'm planting this vivarium, I can put some of the live plants higher up, because in the wild, the animal that's going in this enclosure lives up in the trees. Here's what we have so far for the custom background now that the cork bark as well as the flower pots are attached to the back. We do still have the sides to do, but for now I'm going to show you how I put the spray expanding foam onto the background. Now here is the fun part. I'm going to be using Great Stuff Pond and Stone expanding foam to actually create the background as well as hold everything in place. So while using this stuff, you do want to keep in mind that it will expand as it cures. So you don't need a crazy thick layer of this stuff. You do want to cover the entire foam sheet as well as any of your flower pots or any cracks and crevices that you need to cover. But you will be saving yourself a lot of work if you try to use as thin of a layer as possible. The next step after it cures is carving this entire thing, and if you use too thick of a layer, one, it's going to take a lot of extra time to cure, and also while you're carving, you're going to have a lot of extra foam to carve. So just keep that in mind while building. This here is going to be the left side of the enclosure. I'm doing this the exact same way as I did the background, although for this side you'll probably be able to get a better view of how I'm attaching the cocoa husk liner as well as a little half-hide piece of cork bark. Now here's what we have for the left side of the enclosure before the expanding foam goes on. As you can see, there's also a nice little hide on this side, so she'll have plenty of places to hide. Now this is the right side of the enclosure, and for this side I'm not doing an extra hide, but I am going to make a small little ledge with a smaller piece of cork bark so that she has extra places to climb. Here you can really see how I went around the flower pot to cover it all. I did this for all of the flower pots, although I did do the other ones off camera, but I figured this one would be the easiest for you guys to view. Now it has been 24 hours and the expanding foam has cured, so now we can get to carving. Alright guys, so I'm going to be showing you how to carve this expanding foam on the left side of the enclosure. I figure you guys will kind of get the gist once you guys see it once. But the main idea for this is to rough up the texture of the expanding foam. When the foam originally cures, it leaves a very smooth surface that your silicone does not want to stick to. So you have to rough up the surface just so your silicone will stick under the expanding foam. This is also a really fun part because you're actually creating the look of your background. Unfortunately, I did run out of the expanding foam for the third side of this custom background. I will be doing that part off camera, but I'll be doing it the same way as the other two sides. Here is what all the sides will look like once they're done being carved. As you can see, there's a very rough surface to the foam, and it'll make it very easy for your silicone to stick. I'm going to be putting down some small portions of the black silicone at a time onto this foam, and then I will be adding a mixture of jungle mix and reptile chips onto the background to complete it. Then I push it into the silicone to get it to stick. Here is the final product of the left side of this custom background. I'm absolutely loving how it's turning out so far. I'm going to be finishing up the last two sides off camera, but you will see them completed in part 2 of this bioactive build. I'm really excited for part 2 because that's when I will be actually planting and putting together this vivarium. Alright, now let's go meet the animal that's going into this enclosure. This is my beautiful crested gecko pumpkin. She's the last of my animals that you guys haven't met yet, and she's a patternless red crested gecko. I got her last April at a reptile expo. She is already in a bioactive vivarium, although this is only her juvenile enclosure. Plus, there aren't many ways for me to get live plants higher up for her, but the flower pots in her custom setup will help with that. I hope you guys have enjoyed part 1 of this bioactive vivarium build. If you did, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Plus, now you can follow me on Instagram under the same name, Callie Critters and Creations, now that you've seen all my animals. I can't wait for part 2 of this build myself. Alright, well this is all for today's video. I hope everyone has a beautiful day from me and Pumpkin.